architecture, right, to ensure fulfillment of whatever promise that product entails. Now, looking at these aspects, I do know that we've had a discussion in the morning. Unfortunately, I missed most of it, but there was talk on digital and digitization. But I think it's important enough to talk about it again. And it's important enough because there in digital, that's where lies the solution with respect to penetration levels and with respect to unleashing the potential in India. Because it's technology which can actually marry or bridge the gap between the consumer and the manufacturer. And when we talk about digital can actually help ease a lot of pain points which are there for insurers. Pain points in terms of, enabling a simplified product structure, or as what Mr. Roy mentioned in terms of a portal to help search online, easing the cumbersome onboarding process for insurers, providing need analysis, also helping out in servicing. From a service aspect, looking at a 360-degree customer relationship management approach, taking online feedback, ensuring that, even if the distribution partner is not able to service the customer, at least we have some mechanism to service these customers. That's where digital can actually help ease a lot of pain points in insurance. And when I talk about digital, there are two aspects to it, right? One is the online model or online channel, as one could say. So that obviously, while it has grown phenomenally in the past few years, it's still in its nascent stages, and we do expect a lot of growth to happen there. But at the same time, equally important is how digital can actually be an enabler for the larger distribution force, which is the intermediary-led channel. Be it agency, be it bank assurance, be it direct sales, how can digital actually be an enabler? Now, largely, if you look at it today, how does an agent actually sell the policy? You have to do a face-to-face conversation with the customer, then you have to come back to the branch and log in the case. So a lot of time actually gets spent in terms of traveling, right, in terms of coming to the branch, because any customer-related aspect can only get resolved at the branch. Also, when an agent is actually approaching the customer and doing a face-to-face discussion, an agent actually has to process a lot of customer information, a lot of customer data in that conversation, in that call, and process it, analyze the need, offer an appropriate solution. And if the agent is unable to do so in that one call, which may last half an hour or 1 hour, it is possible that the customer may or may not give another chance to that agent. So the opportunity really can get lost. And that's where a digital approach can actually come in. So think of, let's say, a tab-based solution, which some of the private insurers have already implemented or piloted in various geographies and various channels. So if you have a tab which has basically videos, which has infographics, which can actually help create awareness, inform the customer of what is the need gap, take the profiling of the customer, help explain to the customer how this product will help you, right? And also help in terms of the onboarding of the customer, it can actually drive both productivity and at the same time help reduce costs. So when I'm talking about productivity, some of the estimates that we have is that by surely without doing anything else, just ensuring an app-based or a tab-based solution today, and we call it eBranch, which is an electronic branch solution, right? Productivity levels can straight away jump by 15% just through better funnel management, better quality of conversation with the customers, right? And better conversion rates. And from a cost perspective, our own estimates say that around 50% of the processing costs of a policy can actually get saved by implementing a digital solution. Not only that, right? Around 30 to 40% of the policies will actually get issued within a period of a few hours if we implement a tab-based solution. And there are companies which are doing that and are in various phases of that development. Now, having said that, while digitization has its own advantages, there would be certain challenges that we face. One of the key challenges would be in terms of network and the IT ecosystem which exists. So I can develop the best app-based solution, but at the end of the day, there has to be spectrum, there has to be connectivity for the customer to actually experience that, right? There are also challenges in terms of the dynamism of the IT environment. Technologies keep changing, be it even mobile technologies, and insurers need to really be on their toes to keep abreast and make appropriate changes. And then it's also the challenge of addressing a heterogeneous population. I believe there was a question in the earlier session on mobiles, addressing the rural population, and that's a challenge. While digitization can actually help increase reach, at the same time, how do I ensure that while I know I can serve the tech-savvy, metro, financially aware customer, how can digitization actually help me service the rural farmer customer segment is also equally important. So these are the challenges which are there. But having said that, if you look at a customer life cycle, we still believe that digitization is the right answer or the right approach for us to unleashing a few X multiple potentials. You start with, let's say, awareness. So from a customer life cycle perspective, when you talk about awareness, so insurance solutions on mobility platforms can actually help there. So basically what you can use is you can use videos, you can use infographics to actually inform and create awareness for the customer. Now when the customer moves from awareness to consideration, you can actually use need-based tools, do analytics, look at the profile of the customer, and therefore suggest the appropriate solution. Also, digital can actually help you create a knowledge repository for your customers and help you actually, utilize that to suggest the appropriate solution for the customer. From there, when we move to onboarding, which is essentially today a cumbersome process, there's a huge application form with multiple questions, quite a few documents required, financial underwriting can happen, medical underwriting can happen. So digital solutions can actually help ease the process of onboarding for the customer. And finally, on the life stage, as we move on to advocacy and retention of customer, that's where a lot of service-related platforms, be it web-based, IVR-based, mobile-based, social media-based, all of these can help. And at the same time, some level of propensity modeling in terms of doing analytics and probably ensuring a better experience for the customer. So eventually, the whole crux of what I'm trying to say today is that as we move ahead, right, there are various aspects of the digital space that one needs to kind of tap into from a life insurer perspective. But if we can stitch all of this together, end of the day, we are going to lower the costs, we're going to improve productivities, we're going to offer a far better seamless experience to the customer, and also ensure that we are increasing the reach and thereby growing the life insurance industry or the sector by quite a few multiples if you're able to ensure that this happens. So thank you. That's it from my side.
Right. Thanks, Harit. So just switching gears, since you talked a bit on the digital and how the customer experience is changing and has changed to a certain extent in the last 4 or 5 years, I would now just move on to the GI side, and if the two of you, any one of you, could share your thoughts on what has been your experience in terms of exposure to digital and how or whether that is transforming the way sales are taking place in a GI environment. So either of you. Yeah.
So I joined an insurance industry roughly 6.5 years back, and we at our company in L&T, we decided that the motor insurance, which was largely on a cover note basis, and there was nothing called a policy, and policy will come much later. We decided that we will issue only insurance policy which will be through the portal from the very beginning, and there will be no manual cover note.
Okay.
And we had huge resistance in the initial days. The business was down, and from that time, just 1.5 years back or 2 years back, we are told by the intermediaries that if you do not have a very good portal where I can issue a policy, the intermediaries can issue a policy in 1 minute or 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes, I am not going to work with you. I will move away and to a better, to a company which has a better solution. So the mindset has changed. So as far as the digital is concerned, there were lots of queries on whether the digital channels, whether it's a web aggregator or company's own digital platform, will to certain extent deter consumers to go to the traditional channels of agency and broking. So as we look at it, that digital is actually not a channel. yes, digital remains one of the channel, which is on web aggregator or online. But digital is a way to do business, as Khalid was also mentioning, and in the earlier sessions also. It's a way to do business. Now, what kind of digital channels or intervention we are looking at? Simply for the agents and the brokers, the portals that are there in the GI side, largely to issue policies for motor and health, and also for fire and some pre-underwritten products. This actually reduces the cost of doing business for the traditional channel. One. So by this, whether it is a productivity, whether it is the usage of documents, whether it is the inefficiency of our postal system, the policies are there, the policies are going to the customers. The regulator has started the dematerialization of the general insurance products also, and it will start with the health and the motor. Thirdly, there are states like Telangana where we see that the motor insurance product, motor insurance policies, you don't require to have a hard copy. So over your mobile phone, you can have that and you can show that copy to the police or the traffic sergeants. And the entire thing of getting a policy printed by the traditional channels and delivering it to the customers today vanishes. So that is the first. Secondly, obviously, it's a discovery for the consumers. The consumers are becoming more aware. We hear lots of things about the rural, but actually the rural also, with the e-kiosks, the governance system that the government had, and we know that there are number of experiments that are being done with the e-kiosks, where all kinds of policies which are relevant for the rural customers are being sold, whether it is a two-wheeler, whether it is a tractor, and in certain cases personal accident insurances. It has been sold through the e-kiosks. There are also a talk, Kailash, on the web aggregators. They are creating a platform for the agents, the neighborhood agents, and rating the agents. So anyone wishing to talk to a customer, even in a web aggregator channel also, the sale process is largely assisted. In motor, 75% of the cases which people come on the web aggregators channel, like a Policybazaar or a CoverFox or a Bank Bazaar, they ask for an assistance. Where those web aggregators, people call them up. But in case of health insurance, 90% of the sales are assisted. That means people wish to talk to someone, wish to talk to an agent who can give the relevant or credible information. So there are moves which will create neighborhood agency, and people will go on rating them, just like what happens on Amazon or a Flipkart. We buy a product, we choose a supplier looking at the reviews. So those are also on the anvil. So on the entire digitization piece, I will say that it will become an environment, and it will be good for the traditional channels also to reduce their cost of delivery.
Okay. Krishna, any views, since you come from an entity which is public sector, wholly government owned? Yes. Obviously the scale might be very different, but in terms of how much inertia has moved, on this front.
Actually, being in public sector for the past 28 years, for an idea to take off, it takes a lot of time, effort, a lot of traditional thinking has to be overcome. But really, I'm proud to say that in the past 10 years, all the 4 public sector insurers have moved forward at a very fast pace. Maybe opening up of the sector in 2000, that was a kick up our collective backside, I can say. But once we got that kick, we started moving. We are still facing a lot of problems. Obviously, we have a very large network of offices. And we used to have our private insurance players might not be having this institution. We used to have an institution called development officers. They are still there, but they are getting phased out. Now, these development officers was the main marketing force for us. They were the ones who were driving the business, and they had some agents. Agency recruitment was not a very big thing. Even when I joined, even after 10 years after my joining also, agency force was one of the most neglected channels. Now that this situation has changed, what we are looking at is more and more recruitment of agents, and not only recruitment, training them, arming them with the latest technologies. Where United India has been very successful is in giving portals to the agents. In fact, we have a very extraordinary, you can say, agency reward scheme where the business potential of the agent is being utilized or harnessed in such a way that the more business he brings, the more rewards he gets, and he is even allowed or encouraged to open his own office, issue policies on his own. An agency portal has been created for him. So it requires a change of thinking for the agents also. Similarly, we have issued or created portals for our other marketing channels like brokers, bank assurance. Everywhere actually the penetration, the reach has to come through, widening the net. That is where the penetration will come. And we are having good success, but still there is room for improvement. As Mr. Khalid had said, when he was talking about, an e-office based on a tab, something like that, we are also doing it in a different way. We have one-man offices in most of the rural areas, micro offices they are called, and Government of India, under its financial inclusion program or initiative, has encouraged us, the public sector companies, to open offices in out-of-the-way places where the general population does not have the facility of reaching out to an insurance company. So our one-man offices, the micro offices, as we call them, are a really great alternative, a cost-cutting method, as well as at the same time a way to reach out to a very large population, especially in the rural areas. And they are profit centers because they have only one man. The overheads are very low, and they have the financial authority to accept business up to a certain limit, to settle claims up to a certain limit. All these things are supported with the help of, as you said, the digitization which is coming in. We have shifted to core. One of the greatest changes that has occurred in insurance, especially public sector insurance, is shifting from the traditional standalone softwares to a core platform, which is helping also in gathering data, which we were lacking earlier. So in all these ways, every day we see something new coming up, but there are challenges. For example, connectivity, especially where we have agents who have been given portals in semi-urban and rural areas, where we have micro offices in semi-urban and rural areas. The main problem for us is the connectivity. Sometimes there are some areas in West Bengal, we have a number of micro offices, but some of them hardly 40-50 kilometers away from Calcutta. But they said, sir, this is a remote area. I said, why are you not being able to issue a policy or make a success of your office? Then, sir, this is a remote area. I said, why 40 kilometers, 50 kilometers from Calcutta, can it be a remote area? Then he said, sir, connectivity is the problem. Main problem is the connectivity. Once connectivity is there, then it will be an explosion. The way we can reach out to the population, the way we can increase the penetration, that will be it will be an explosion. But for that, we have to work on it. We are working on it. There are areas where even your dongle does not work. BSNL has got the best reach, but still there is there is scope for further improvement. Maybe investing in the infrastructure, the, the optic fiber project
fair,
or
fair.
whatever it is. I'm not the expert on that area, but those things will really help every one of us grow.
Right.
Thank you.
Fair. So, Krishna, based on your experience, so you said connectivity and infrastructure is one problem. Is, in your opinion, capital a constraint? So, for example, we've had the FDI norms, being relaxed to 49%, and the basic pulse of the market 2.5 years back was that the moment this cap is relaxed, people will jump and raise money, and that money will be infused. There is a dearth of around 20,000 crores, 10,000 crores. There were all sorts of numbers that were doing round. But we've not seen that happen. So, any short take on why that could have been the case?
I mean, as long as it was, FDI was kept at a level of 26%, there was a lot of grumbling that 26% is too low.
Yeah.
We need to increase it, go to 49. Now that the government of India has said, okay, go ahead for 49, I don't really see a quantum jump in the number of outside companies coming and wanting to invest, or the existing companies trying to really increase it. Maybe they are still waiting for I think some more stability to come in.
I see.
And the problem here is currently whatever capital which we are having is getting locked up in the claims reserves, I think. That is my feeling.
Okay.
So,
okay.
For the public sector insurers, maybe the recent talk about, or the direction from the government about disinvestment or listing on the stock exchanges, maybe that will free up some of the money to allow us to expand and to invest more on the internal infrastructure that is required for growth.
I see. So, Parth, according to you, if you were given an open landscape and said that, okay, Parth, why don't you come up with a list of 3 points that you would want to be addressed in order to make this industry go from wherever it is to an exponential growth, what would those 3 aspects be?
I think it's a dream. It will be a dream situation, Kailash.
Yeah.
Because we are in a regulated industry.
Yeah.
And when we talk about that and expansion and the capital comes into the picture, one of the reason, and that it will be definitely one of the expectation, is to improve the profitability of this industry. And in the previous segment, Mr. Sanat Kumar was mentioning that as on 31st of December, none of the general insurance companies could generate any profit from the insurance business. So whatever has been generated got generated from the investment income, which is the corpus. And it is not a story of only 31st December. It has been continuing for the last few years. Now, first of all, and that is the reason, we need to improve the profitability. Now, the improving the profitability in that case entails 2 things. One is the improvement of the price. The price need to increase commensurate with the losses. Today, based on the price, we can't hold the losses. Number 2, the cost of delivery, the cost of doing business has to come down. It has to rationalize, for which the expense of management regulation has come, and the regulator is looking at the commission, the level of commissions that are being paid to the distributor. Along with it, the improved situation on the digital front, which will bring down the entire operating cost of the industry. That will help the traditional distributors. So, improving the price, reducing cost in terms of everything, 2. And third is the increase in penetration. The better distribution channels. One of the great things, I think, in the last 6 months that has happened by the regulator is the regulation on the POSP, the point of sale persons. So, on a single stroke, basically the brokers are now can appoint the so-called sub-brokers across, through this POSP regulation to distribute simple insurance products like motor, personal accident, hospital cash, and travel. So this way the penetration will go up. Today it is 0.8. If it goes up in another 5 years to 1.1 to 1.2, which is and the developing economy nearby in Thailand, Malaysia at the same level, I think these are the three things I should look at.
Fair. Thanks. Thanks, Parth. So, as in, we all know and understand that, look, GI is a year-on-year business, and maybe third-party claims or professional indemnity could stretch to, say, 3 years or 5 years. And life insurance, on the other hand, ends up being a 10-year or a 15-year horizon. So whatever profitability the life insurance industry is seeing today is actually of the book that was sold 10 years or 5 years back. In that context, I would reach out to Mr. Roy in terms of what, sir, would you think could be, say, 2 or 3 new areas that the life insurance industry should delve upon? Maybe in terms of new growth engines, maybe in terms of new product categories, you know, just to keep this going, because if this were to be the case and if the industry doesn't evolve, doesn't engineer itself, then it's going to plateau at some point in time.
See, if you look at the penetration of life insurance in the Indian context, I think the question of plateauing off does not really come in, because there is a huge population outside. See, the recent scheme of the Government of India, Jeevan Jyoti, has opened up a new vista. As I was telling, in the olden days, the concept of insurance cover and the concept of a pension cover, these two were absolutely alien concepts. Insurance cover was just a cover, a basic cover. No one thought that inflation would take such a toll that, let's take that 15,000 rupees sum insured, which I had for a 25-year coverage, would have been sufficient.
Got it.
Similarly, pension cover, we never thought of pension cover. Of course, many of the government jobs and all had some pension, this thing. It was the defined benefit kind of pension. But the unorganized sector had no pension cover. So the question of plateauing off is something which will not happen. It will grow.
Fair.
The important thing is, how does it grow and where does it grow? Now, a new awareness has come in with the government schemes. It is just the tip of the iceberg. The awareness has been created. It's a huge middle class which is moving from the lower middle to the middle class. This is where, and it is panning out across the geography. It is not in the metros or the urban centers alone. Rural income is not yet getting taxed. So there is a huge surplus available there. That has to be tapped. I don't know how it can be really tapped from the insurance point of view, but that is something which has to be tapped. I think the awareness that Jeevan Jyoti and the Suraksha and the Atal Bima Pension scheme, those schemes have just created an awareness. It is just a sort of guiding